Hey guys, my name is Billy Wink and I'm the CEO of HP Auto, and today we're going to be doing a buyer's guide on the 971.2 2020 Panamera GTS. Now this covers 2019 to 2023 for the GTS models, and then the new body style starts in 2024, so this is a .1 GTS review. So this shares the same engine as a turbo. It's a 4-liter twin turbo. It has 453 horsepower, 457 foot-pounds of torque, and it does 0 to 60 in 3.9 seconds. But with launch control and a good driver, we're seeing 3.7 seconds. There's roughly about 3,000 to 4,000 of these made. They haven't released the production numbers on these cars to the public, but just based on how Porsche typically breaks down the models they offer, and the GTS is usually a lower production than the turbo models, we're estimating about 10% of these were the GTS model. The curb weight on this car is 4398, and there is some variable in that weight depending on some of the options and whatnot, but the standard weight's about 4,400 pounds. It does have an 8-speed PDK standard. For the fuel economy, you're looking about 16 miles per gallon in the city, about 23 on the highway for a combined 19 miles per gallon. The base MSRP on this car is $129,000, but as you know, with Porsche, you can easily add up to $100,000 in options. So with the GTS model, some of the standard options consist of Sport Chrono package. You have the Sport Design body kit. Sport exhaust comes standard pretty much on all GTS models. You have the 20-inch Sport Design wheels that come with it, along with the LED headlights with the PDLS option, and those are the standard GTS options. Some of the options you want to look for on these cars, which aren't must-have, but just some of the more premium and desirable options, are rear axle steering, Burmester, adaptive cruise control, night vision, and ventilated front seats. Now, if you get ventilated front seats, with this being a GTS, you are going to get the Alcantara, but some people prefer that and are okay with the leather. Me personally, I like the Alcantara, but some people like the vented seats. So as you know, with any GTS model Porsche, it does have a Sport Design body kit. So as you can tell here, this is a Sport Design front bumper. It does have a little bit more aggressive lower lip and grille openings here, which give it a little bit more edgy and modern design compared to the original Panamera. Obviously, Porsche lets you know it's a GTS by including the sticker right here, but some people do opt out of that by deleting it. And then as we come back towards the rear of the car, you can see the rear Sport Design bumper, which is an option for you on any Porsche, but it comes standard on the GTS. They also black out the emblems and the rear Porsche, which looks a little more sporty as you would expect with a GTS. Another standard feature of the GTS is these blackout door handles here. I like it personally better. It's just a little more sporty and an edgy look with these cars. It has the brushed aluminum illuminated Panamera GTS logo there. Standard in the GTS, you have the Alcantara inserts. It does say GTS here in chalk with the chalk stitching, chalk seat belts, all the Alcantara accents as you would expect. And then this car does have a full leather interior because it's a more premium model, so that's standard on these cars. On the door panel, it has the Alcantara inserts here, and then full leather with deviated stitching, and the nice brushed black aluminum look, which I like. And here's what the rear door panel looks like. Again, we've got the deviated stitching, Alcantara insert. Again, it's a very modern, more edgy look, which I love. You've got the blacked out door sills here, and then the bucket rear seats, which I love a lot, with the Alcantara inserts here. As we make our way to the rear of the car, we'll check out the trunk space, which there's plenty of space in this car in the back. There's obviously quite a bit of space here. If you want to just peek under here, this is where the subwoofer is. Obviously, Porsche doesn't have spare tires now, so they give you some stuff here in the event you have a flat. Here's a little bit of storage space here. You do have this shelf here to kind of give you some privacy, and then in the event you need additional space, we can just simply come over here. So there's plenty of space if needed in the car. So this is what the Sport looks like extended. Now, generally this will automatically open up once you get over about 65 miles per hour. In some cases it's 55, just depending on the trim and coating on the car, but this will automatically open up, or you can open it from the menu of the car. Now, one of the cars that you may be comparing this to, if you're in the market for one of these but not completely sold, is the Panamera Turbo. So with the Panamera Turbo, you're going to see 560 horsepower and 567 foot-pounds of torque, which is a ginormous jump compared to what you have in this car. Now, there is an option where if you still want to go with this car because you like the look and the feel of the GTS to retune the engine, because they are the same engine. So you can tune this engine to produce the same amount of horsepower and torque, but you have some factors such as warranty and obviously those considerations if you're tuning this car instead of factory warranty. The other advantage of the turbo is obviously, performance. So you're going to see 0 to 60 in 3.6 seconds and 3.3 with launch control. Another thing is it's a little bit more of a luxury option versus this is a more sporty option. And then obviously it does handle better at higher speeds. It's more of a top end car, so it's going to perform a little bit better at speed. It's going to have a little bit more aggressive brakes, a little bit more aggressive suspension. So those are some things to consider. And then the last consideration on some of the pros of the Panamera Turbo is resale value. Depending on what year model you get, you are going to see a little bit higher resale value. And think about this, if you're looking at a 2017 or 18 Turbo today, you're going to beat a lot of depreciation and have a lot less loss when it's time for resale. So that's one of the considerations of looking at Panamera Turbo over the GTS right now, is if you're shopping for an older model, there's a lot less money to lose. Now, some of the cons of the Turbo is market price. If you're comparing year to year, you're going to see a higher price, about 20 to 30K more for a Turbo in most cases. The Turbo also has a little bit heavier feel to it because it's more of like a GT luxury touring car, where the GTS is a little bit tighter handling and suspension. You're also going to have a little bit more of a less connected feel in the Turbo over the GTS, because the GTS is again more of an aggressive driving feel that you're going to get, whereas the Turbo is more luxurious. You are going to have a little bit more complex system, so you're going to have a little bit more features on the car built into it that could be more costly down the road. And then maintenance cost is going to be a little bit higher on a Turbo, just because there is a few other features that come on those cars that aren't always standard on these, such as PCCB, got PDCC, and other things that can come into a play of maintenance cost. Maintenance on this car is like any other Porsche. You're going to have pretty much the standard intervals. So typically you're going to see an oil change every 10,000 miles or 12 months. You're going to need a brake fluid flush and cabin filter replacement every 24,000 miles or 12 months. You're going to need to do the spark plugs every 30,000 miles or 36 months. And then you're going to be looking at the engine air filters and the PDK fluid every 48,000 miles or 48 months. As far as common problems that we've seen on these cars, it's pretty isolated to a couple things. Pretty much with any car and air suspension, at some point that's going to be a problem to consider. It's not a major problem that we're seeing now, but that's something you're going to see in the future. You're also going to see some issues at some point with the air compressor on these as well. Yes, the suspension does leak down, but we have seen some compressors fail on the turbos. Considering the Turbo and the GTS have a similar suspension, we're probably going to see those issues show up on these later on down the road. The PCM is also an area on the higher mileage older Panameras that we've seen become an issue. Most likely that will follow suit on these cars as well. And we have seen in some cases the oil cooler has failed on these cars, so the oil cooler itself will start to leak, and obviously the O-rings will start to leak. And then we've also seen a couple of the turbo lines fail and whatnot as well. A common problem across all 4 liters is the water pump failing, the electric pump. We have noticed it has seemed to have gotten better since Porsche has revised that part, but most likely it's going to fail at some point no matter what, because it's still a maintenance item. And then the last thing you have to consider is the rear wing. Almost every Panamera Turbo we've seen, once you get to 12 to 15 years old, that motor fails at some point. So we expect to see that fail in these cars as well in the future. So overall, I like the GTS. I'm a fan of the sport design body kit, the aggressive interior, but the Panamera Turbo is also an excellent option. So it really just comes down to what you find the most value in. But I will say personally, I love the way these look. So hopefully we covered any questions or concerns you may have making a decision on buying one of these. And if you have any questions we didn't cover, comment below and we'll be happy to let you know the best answer for that. Please like and subscribe, and thanks for watching. Take care.